Okay, remember that they're changing my voice. I'm not gay, and this is part 3. So you might ask, well, why do you keep saying you're not gay? Because they're changing my voice to try to make it so I sound gay. Now look at the cardinal on the screen. His name is Cardinal Sarah, Sarah, and he works in the Catholic Church. Now, when it comes to religious people, he seems like one of the more sincere looking people. But notice if they haven't edited this picture, and they edit my pictures and videos and the sound of my voice quite often, that there's red on his lips in at least one picture. And why is that? Why, when that became popular, did we not get an explanation? All of a sudden, everyone in the news has red on their lips. Females look like guys more than ever. The younger generations are identifying as LGBT way more than ever before, way more. And there's no explanation given. Everyone's like, it's like not a big deal. Well, what is the cardinal saying himself? Okay, we'll get into what this has to do with the shooting in Morgan Hill shortly. If you've been following the playlist, you see that this is very connected. If you don't, I'll explain shortly. Well, he says that religious freedom is threatened in the West, right? Religious freedom is threatened. Okay? And he also says that paganism has entered the Catholic Church. Now, there's somewhere around, if I'm not mistaken, there's somewhere around 1.7 billion Catholics in the world. So if paganism enters the Catholic Church, that's a lot of people who are being influenced by paganism. So you have Satanism everywhere. You have biker gangs called the Hells Angels and the pagans and Lord knows what else, right? You have rock and roll people, right? Heavy metal, goths, emos, K-pop with their kind of Lady Gaga and Katy Perry sort of satanic look. Yeah, Billie Eilish and on and on and on, right? So you all these Satanism just everywhere. Okay? Satanists deceive. The devil's a horny devil. The devil's a rapist and a murderer and a mass drugger. You know, he drugs people, what have you. That's pretty clear. So when a cardinal, which is a pretty high rank in the Catholic Church, is saying that religious freedom is threatened in the West, why would he be lying? He's not lying. I'm sure some of you know that to some degree. But when you hear me explain what happened with the shooting in Morgan Hill, if you don't believe me, you're like crazy. Because why wouldn't you believe me? You don't believe that there's a bunch of Satanists everywhere mocking people? I presented evidence of that. Now I'm presenting more evidence. He's saying, yes, there's these pagans who are entering the... Well, why are pagans in that Catholic Church? To mock God. Now what happens if you're from the royal family of Dr. Martin Luther King's tribe, the Igbos, okay? It looks like my uncle's spitting image, for example. And you have a top martial arts challenge, okay? And you are explaining how you're, drawing on spiritual power from God, and no one could beat you. Well, all kinds of pagan scum take notice. But they took notice before that because a lot of them are high-level Satanists who have been following my family for a long time. They know the Bible actually points to my family because it says you know them by their fruits. You know them by their works. You know the family lines that are more holy by their works. Now, who trained Martin Luther King's ancestors with my ancestors? Where does martial arts really come from? It comes from my ancestors, spiritually speaking, and my bloodline and otherwise. Okay, Kuro Obi means black belt. Obi in Igbo means King Heart Hut, Essence Center, Temple Core. And you see right there, Kuro, right? So Kuro Obi in Japanese, right? In Chinese means black belt. And Obi in Igbo means King Heart Hut, Essence Center, Temple Core. And the word Obi is Igbo spelled backwards. That is a core proof I have. You should write it down. It's a core proof I have when I explain why these things are centered in me. The black belt is even more on the center of your body, so to speak, in that sense of the idea, right? About halfway, okay, on your belt, okay? And it's a symbol of rank. And Obi means king. And Obi in a narrow sense, when used for one person, you have to choose one Obi of all Obis, one king of kings. It's referring to Christ. It's referring to me. Even the word Christ, you have the words hit scrambled. So when you look at the situation, where is the main mockery come from? And I'm not racist. My mother's white. My father is Nigerian from Nigeria. He's a brain surgeon. I can easily prove that. Okay, the main mockery is coming from the white Jewish and LGBT establishment, and they've recruited token minorities over the years to help them be it the slave trade, be it colonialism. Over the years, they recruited various social clubs and secret societies and cults and corporations of token minorities that they back to try to control the communities. And people who do not highlight this are suspicious. And people who do highlight this without having a religion of universal pinpoint and moral precision are also suspicious. Why wouldn't they want you to nail what the solution is? Why do they want to kind of get you to follow them like a sheep and to not use your head? So when the top martial arts ever possible, when you consider tech breeding and cheating and generational ill-gotten gains ruling out people in the future, and a cardinal from the Catholic Church tells you that there's Satanists everywhere, pagans everywhere, that religious freedom is threatened, why wouldn't you believe him? Okay, now if there's pagans in the Catholic Church, there's pagans in the government. Now, what kind of a government wouldn't end homelessness? Could easily be ended for a fraction of how much the Iranian war cost. They spent $3 trillion. If you adjust for inflation, it might be more like 4 now in Afghanistan alone, if I'm not mistaken. For just $40 billion, they could have ended homelessness, especially if you spent the money 20 years ago, 10 years ago. So why don't they? Because they think like a pagan. That's what the Bible tells you. It says, don't worry about money and things like this. Pagans chase after those. So what do Christians do? Christians, they put God first and they take care of the poor. They do for the least of the brethren. They keep the golden rule. Do unto others as you would have them do unto you. They don't cheat the top martial arts ever possible as right to lead. Pagans do. So is America a Christian nation? No, it's a pagan nation. It's a satanic nation. Is Israel? No, it's a pagan nation. It's a Satan. Is Europe? It's all pagan nations. Their intelligence agencies are almost certainly extremely aware of what's going on here. They must be, especially when they're in church groups and etc. So why aren't they rallying to me? Because they do not put God first. They put finding their life in the world first. Like Matthew, I believe it's Matthew 6 tells you, that's what pagans do. You know them by their works, by their values, by their decisions. So we see in the chapter before, Matthew 5, it says, blessed are you when you are persecuted for righteousness' sake, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. So blessed are those who are persecuted for righteousness' sake, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. So the difference between being persecuted for righteousness' sake and chasing after finding your life in the world, chasing after money and women and social status and trying to just keep alive. And that's the difference between somebody who submits to God, they scramble to find the divine order, and somebody who tries to find their life in the world, okay, they play stupid about things like the government refusing to end homelessness, build affordable housing, things they could easily do. Think about it. Affordable housing comes with, they get paid back for it, right? It's not a free gift to the public. You can charge them exactly what you paid for it while the property appreciates in value, or you can charge them a little more, what have you. You can charge them a little less because the property is increasing in value. So why aren't they doing it? When you ask the right questions, you take all law enforcement operations with the greatness. I don't know if you can hear the high-pitched sound. They do things like that to interrupt my videos. And somebody who lived here recently said that it wasn't really happening till I moved in. I don't know if they're telling the truth about that, but that's what they said. And it seems to happen. It seems that wherever I go, it's like a different tree, and then the tree starts making that noise, high up in the tree. Okay. So when we look at these shootings, right, and we look at law enforcement operations, and we look at how they're responding and why they're not asking the right questions, right? Why am I not being interviewed by the FBI or the Santa Clara County Sheriff's Department, the San Jose Police Department, or Morgan Hill Police Department, Santa Cruz? But why am I not? Because that's not how they think. I filed police reports, written the Justice Department, okay. I filed an internal affairs report with Santa Clara County Sheriff's Department. I've written the Justice Department, the FBI. Why are they not responding in a logical way? Okay, because their religion, the state's belief system, the state's propaganda religion, if you will, okay, is paganism. That's why paganism is entering the Catholic Church on a planet where there's almost 3 billion Christians. Now you got to realize that paganism was already in the Catholic Church. I would tell you with certainty, okay, I will tell you with certainty, they're making it harder for me to talk here, that all the churches are actually pagan churches, and they were the whole time. I'll tell you with certainty that all churches, mosques, and synagogues were started by pagans. That's why the various religious books in the Abrahamic faiths are written in a pagan style, in a sort of craftsman, scribe, merchant, hijacking religion sort of style, instead of in a martial art fashion. That's also why when those two Indian females died in Santa Cruz under suspicious circumstances, I called it out. I said, look, it's by the ocean, what have you. Okay, and the ocean was called, the beach was called Panther Beach and Yellow Beach. And yellow for the sun, panther, the black panther, what have you. And some people might not have believed me, but I presented a bunch of evidence, and basically everyone must have believed me. Then, what happened is recently, there was this kid who was saved on an ocean on a beach called Seabright by lifeguards. I've never in my life, and I've been on this planet 45 years, I live in California over 4 decades, and never in my life did I see a story of someone having their life saved by lifeguards. But it just happens to happen on the timeline, of these events that's connected to the playlist I made about those Indian females on the beach. I mean, when you look at it in terms of probability and statistics, it doesn't take a genius to see that these things are events that the government is causing. They're manipulating the weather. They're using AI and brain hacking. I have a degree in information technology. I can tell you with certainty that is the case, with certainty. Okay, if you keep up with military technology, if you keep up to date with the brain hacking, how companies and corporations, are responding to brain hacking, the journals, right, the publications, what they put out there in the news, how they're responding to the obvious evidence that the government and other, and corporations have the ability to remotely hack your brain, you can tell that that's what's going on here to a T. If you look at it from an IT perspective with an emphasis on brain hacking, and the pattern that we're seeing when it comes to the government using technologies to violate people's constitutional rights, it's open and shut. It is impossible to be serious about information technology and to look into this and to miss the fact that the government is remotely hacking people's brains. Impossible. You'd have to be the dumbest idiot that ever lived. Okay, it's impossible.